We've durability tested some of the most expensive phones in the world, and now I think it's time to test one of the least expensive smartphones of the year, this $149 Moto G. It's one of the best-selling smartphones that Motorola makes, with hundreds of millions of sales over the years. But how is it so cheap? iPhone 17s are out here selling the back glass alone for $160. How does Motorola make a whole phone for less than the cost of one slab of iPhone glass? Today we're going to find out. The cameras on the back already look a little suspicious, but let's start with the front like we always do. If this $150 smartphone has a plastic screen, it'll start scratching at a level 2 or 3. It is super nice that the camera hump on the back is pretty minimal though. There isn't much rocking going on. Tempered glass, like what we are seeing, starts scratching at a level 6 with deeper grooves at a level 7. The Moto G is using Gorilla Glass 3, so far so good. Name brand glass on a super budget phone is an impressive start. The front-facing 16-megapixel selfie camera is protected with the same slab of glass, and the earpiece slit resides between the glass and the edge of the plastic frame. And this is where we see our first cost savings from Motorola. Plastic. Plastic is everywhere. For reference, to injection mold a phone frame out of plastic, it probably costs less than $5. To CNC mill a phone frame from aluminum, like we see on more premium phones, you're looking at about $25 to $100 per frame, depending on complexity. All that manufacturing, of course, is outside the USA, obviously, because making a phone inside the USA is impossible, and proven by the fact that nobody is doing it. Amazingly though, this $150 phone does have an expandable SD card slot. Apple charges an extra $500 to upgrade to 1 terabyte worth of memory, and you can do it here with the Moto G and your own SD card for about $70. Sometimes the cheapest phones get the best features. Speaking of which, there's also a headphone jack down at the bottom near the USB-C 2.0 port. These days, headphone jacks are normally reserved for $1,000 gaming phones, but we have one here right now on a phone that's only $150. I feel like we're missing something. The back of the Moto G is a soft eco-leather material. Eco-leather is just another way to say silicon polymer, which means it will get scratches and get marked up if it ever comes in contact with an abrasive object. However, I personally totally prefer these soft plastic panels over solid glass, since these will never shatter. Not cracking gets a thumbs up from me. You might have noticed as well that there are no antenna lines. Having no metal might be bad news for our incoming bin test, but it is great news for the cell signal and Wi-Fi, since signals can now penetrate the device from all sides, instead of only through tiny slits in a metal frame. However, none of those Wi-Fi or cell signals leaving or coming to the phone are natively encrypted by default, meaning that third parties can see some of the information being transmitted. So if you want to scramble your data and keep it safe on unfamiliar networks, you'll need a VPN like today's sponsor Surfshark. My own data is currently being safely routed through Venezuela, but based on current events, I might need to pick somewhere new. Luckily, with Surfshark, I can pick any one of 4,500 different servers in 100 different locations, all within seconds, each one scrambling my data at the same time for the ultimate layer of online security. One Surfshark account protects an unlimited amount of your devices, like your family's phones, computers, or tablets. It also comes with a built-in antivirus, which obviously keeps the rest of your data safe once it's inside the phone's hardware. Surfshark also allows me to set up a whole new alternate identity to protect my real name and email from scammers, spammers, or strangers. And the servers at Surfshark are 100% RAM only, meaning they don't keep any logs. You don't have to take my word for it though, you can try it risk-free for $2 a month, with a 30-day money-back guarantee. Link in the description. Protection is always a good thing. Making our way around to the top of the back black panel, it's time to investigate the suspicious camera lenses. The top lens is an overly confident 50-megapixel unit, then below that we have a much more realistic 2-megapixel macro camera. Off to the right we have an ambient light sensor, which isn't even a camera at all. Then back at the top again is a single color LED flash. All 4 circles are protected with glass. Finally, flipping back around to the screen, we see another way the Moto G is saving on cost. It's a 720p 120Hz LCD screen instead of an AMOLED display. The LCD goes instantly black under the heat from my flame, but does recover. For reference, iFixit sells replacement Moto G screens for an impressively inexpensive $38, where the OLED iPhone 17 screen costs a whopping $329. You know, more than twice the cost of this entire Moto G. Budget phones are kinda nice. I didn't realize that it even has a fingerprint scanning power button, but since someone has already scratched it up, it only works about half the time. And when someone scratches it up even more, it just stops working altogether. Just something to keep in mind, and definitely a minor detail to be sure. I'm mostly surprised that a $150 smartphone has a fingerprint scanner at all. Finally, the bin test. Will a thin slab of plastic survive being sat on? The Moto G has a substantial amount of flex. Like, we have the back fake leather panel literally rippling up in my hands. The phone is kinked, but still alive. Bending from the front kinda straightens him back out, but wow, he is barely hanging in there, aren't we all? I don't think we've ever seen a phone flex and fold this far without snapping in all the history of performing these durability tests. The $150 Moto G survived better than the $1,500 Pixel Fold. May it rest in peace. My desk is still burned from that one. Anyway, the nice thing about plastic backs is that they come off in one piece. And we can see that the bend in the phone happened right between the battery and the motherboard. I'll grab my Phillips head screwdriver and remove 9 screws from the top plastics and another 9 screws from the lower plastics. And then of course we can put the little G to sleep since he's not going to want to be awake for what happens next. With the SIM and expandable memory card tray removed, instead of just the plastic lid coming off the motherboard like they usually do, this time around the Moto G's entire frame lifts off and away from the screen, leaving the motherboard and screen behind. A little weird, but if it helps the phone cost hundreds of dollars less than everything else out there, I'll allow it. I'll unplug the battery, just like a little Lego, along with the fingerprint scanning power button, and 2 more long extension ribbons that snake under the battery. The lower loudspeaker comes out next. It's pretty easy to see that this one doesn't have any balls inside, since the whole cavity is missing its back wall. The speaker is using a rubber gasket and the back side of the screen as its 4th wall, which is definitely a cheaper way to build. Turns out there are a lot of creative ways to use that 4th wall, if you know what I mean. But surprisingly, even at this price, Motorola doesn't skimp out on waterproofing. There's not an official IP rating on the Moto G, but it still has the same watertight mesh screen over the loudspeaker opening and lower microphone mesh that we see in a more premium IP68 watertight flagship. I wouldn't trust it to be submersible or anything, but it's still pretty cool that Motorola had enough budget left over to at least protect some of the larger openings. And what is this? As an expert in vibrators, this is an oscillator we haven't seen since the early iPhone days. An eccentric rotating mass vibrator. A blast from the past right out of the early 2000 flip phones. This chunker sits right above the headphone jack from the same era. It's kind of like a museum in here. The 30-watt USB-C 2.0 port and headphone jack both have rubber gaskets that surround the ports. I assume these also aid in the water resistance. I'll move back up to the top end of the phone. The small 2-megapixel macro camera unclips just like a little Lego. This guy does not have any optical image stabilization. I'll unclip 2 signal wires and lift up the motherboard. We see plenty of blue thermal paste on the backside. The motherboard is using the metal midframe of the screen as a heatsink. Then we have the main 50-megapixel camera, which is probably embellishing his resume a bit with those numbers. He comes with no optical image stabilization either, which is a bummer. Another bummer is that Motorola has glued in their battery. I'm definitely not a fan of this move. I'll add some isopropyl alcohol to dissolve the adhesive and help myself not explode. The only reason I'm going to give Motorola a pass on this one is because they actually sell replacement batteries through iFixit for $18.99. This is wild. I have never seen a smartphone battery cost less than this one. You can get all 5,000 milliamp hours for less than $20 in this economy. No wonder the Moto G is Motorola's best-selling smartphone. Wallets everywhere are basically begging for it. And let's be honest, if all you use a phone for is phone calls, texting, and doom-scrolling social media, a $150 smartphone just makes a lot of sense, especially one as resilient as the Moto G. The G now officially stands for Gangsta, and look at that. Our Moto Gangsta is alive and well. Very impressive. I think we've been sleeping on Motorola. Let me know what more phones you want to see tested down in the comments, and remember to keep yourself protected with Surfshark. Link is down in the description. Thanks a ton for watching. I'll see you around.